Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Protein Bros podcast. Today is a really awesome episode. I hope you guys tune in. We have a guy named Greg Justice, who is the author of Pride and Discipline, the story of Jack LaLanne. Jack LaLanne, if you guys don't know, is literally the trailblazer, the pioneer of the fitness industry as we know it today. He opened the first ever health club. He invented things like the Smith machine, the cable pulley system, pin-loaded equipment, the leg extension. He's also invented things like the first ever protein bar, the first mass-produced instant breakfast or protein shake. He's done incredible things. He's at the first exercise show that was ever put on television. It was nationally syndicated. He was teaching people how to do jumping jacks in the 50s. This guy is really incredible, and Greg knows more about him than anybody else living today. So I would make sure you tune in. Let us know what you think, as always, in the comments. And if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share. This is an unorthodox Protein Bros podcast for us, but Greg, we just could not pass up on the opportunity to get a chance to talk to you because when you have someone that you are an expert on, like Jack LaLanne, who most people don't know about, I would say, especially certainly the people that are our listeners, you just gotta if you love fitness, you got to know the name Jack LaLanne. He is the first influencer in fitness outside of maybe the Statue of David. Yeah. And I'm like, I say that, it sounds funny, but I'm like dead serious.
I would say he's the first influencer in the era of TV, for sure. Mm-hmm.
For sure. And so with that being said, he was the first ever fitness show, the first workout from home personality anybody knows. I grew up with Jack LaLanne because I'm actually a fan of infomercials, and that's a weird fact about me, but I grew up actually loving watching infomercials. And one of my all-time favorites was the Jack LaLanne Power Juicer. And I can tell you all of this based on memory. Like, I haven't looked it up, and obviously I haven't seen it in 20 years, but it was just an incredible tool that he would talk about with his wife, and Elaine, right? Elaine and him would do this Power Juicer and talk about how Jack was just like the fittest guy in the world, and he was like the picture of health. And so they sold everybody on how famous Jack LaLanne was in this infomercial. And so I had to learn more. I did my own research. I read more about him. He invented the first ever pulley machine when it came to, he has 100 different, exercise equipment pieces that he was in charge of, or he was the person who inspired it.
If you're listening to this and you've ever used a Smith machine, that was him. If you've ever used a leg extension machine, that was him. And he didn't patent these, correct?
He didn't patent anything.
Which is incredible, because obviously you left a bunch of money on the table there.
It made it very easy for a lot of others to be able to create these awesome pieces of machinery, and it's helped a lot of other people. And man, he's got a lot of credit for a lot of the stuff he's done, but not the equipment. But he also did first protein bar, first instant breakfast, which might as well just be a protein shake, right? Mm-hmm. And what we're going to talk about a lot today, because we have them right here. If you're not watching on YouTube or Spotify, you should watch, because we have here the first prototype of the first ever resistance band. That's the first one. This is the first ever resistance band,
Jeff
y'all.
Couldn't curl it, not once.
This is, it feels a lot like the cable that you plug into a wall. So it's crazy that you can stretch this.
It's actually not easy to stretch, but that's why they had to come up with the prototype number 2.
It's stretchy, but I will tell you, what I love about it is this is going to date it, because it's not called a resistance band. He called it a glamour stretcher.
It's a glamour stretcher.
Originally. And the reason they called it the glamour stretcher, because most of his clients were women. Uh-huh. And then what happened is their husbands would see their wives using it, and they started to use it. So he came out with the easy way stretcher for men. Then they even came up with some children's bands. And so it really started to take off. And this was in the 1950s.
Why don't you tell us exactly how he got into fitness and decided he wanted to make this a career path?
And before I'm sorry to cut you off, Kyle. That's a really great question.
Don't cut me off, dude.
No, it's a really great question, but we need to make sure that we make this clear. Greg Justice helped write a book about Jack LaLanne, and he's launching that book. And when's that book being released?
Actually, the book was released a year ago on Elaine's 96th birthday, which was March 16th of 2022. So the book has been out about a year, a little over a year.
And it's about just the legacy of Jack LaLanne,
yeah,
correct?
it's not a biography. It's just a lot of his writings. And some of the writings that are in the book had never been seen before because he had written a series of columns for a publication whose publisher passed away. And so they were just sitting in his...
unreleased.
Unreleased. And so we put a lot of those writings in there. We interviewed so many of the people, Hollywood celebrities and politicians and, just people from everyday life that were mentored by Jack. And that's the reason I got involved with this project, because Jack was so influential on my career. And truth be told, everything that I learned in fitness came from Jack LaLanne.
Which is incredible. He's got Mark Wahlberg in here. He's got Arnold Schwarzenegger, the original,
Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah, the original Hulk himself, Lou Ferrigno. All of these people looked up to Jack. And so if you guys are hearing about Jack LaLanne for the first time, I'm excited to dive deeper into him. And if you haven't heard about him, absolutely read this book, Pride and Discipline, The Legacy of Jack LaLanne. And I can't wait to read it myself. So tell us, back to the original question for Kyle, how did Jack LaLanne even get into any of this in the first place? Because it just seems like he's such an interesting guy. Again, he's done a million different fitness feats, and we'll get to those. But where did he get his start?
Well, he was a sickly child, and in fact missed a lot of school. And when he was 14 years old, he went to an event where Paul Bragg, who is the godfather of nutrition, and went to this event of Paul Bragg's and learned about how he could change his life through nutrition.
Okay.
And then certainly exercise, and you put the two together. And one of Jack's, probably his most famous quote, is that exercise is king, nutrition is queen, put them together and you've got a kingdom. And so that's what he did. But he, it really started with that seminar from Paul Bragg, learning about nutrition and how he could turn his life around. And it was like, he would say, it was like he was born again. And it just changed his life. And from that point, he was about as clean a eater as anybody in the history of mankind could be. He opened the first modern fitness center in Oakland in 1936.
The Physical Culture Studio.
The Physical Culture Studio, that is correct, in Oakland in 1936.
I mean, the first gym as we know it today.
That's correct. He is the godfather of fitness.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, and truly led the way for fitness entrepreneurs, certainly like myself, that taught me everything I knew going into the fitness industry.
I mean, quite literally, this would be what we would call a trailblazer.
Oh, no question.
Everybody that has a career in fitness has a little bit of debt to pay to Jack LaLanne, because
no question.
We're talking like the modern gym as we know it. This is it right here?
No.
It says Attila Studio Physical Culture.
It's not Attila. It's the Jack LaLanne Physical Culture Studio. And it would be in Oakland, California. I believe it's on 12th or 14th Street. I can't remember.
Do they have any kind of like historical thing for it now? Because, man, that'd be awesome.
Well, there are some of the pieces of equipment in the Smithsonian. And in his home gym, which I just visited, Elaine, about 3 months ago, and got to work out on some of those the original Smith machine, the original leg extension, leg curl machine, the original cable pulley machine, weight selector machine. And so it was just a joy to be able, that is the very first leg extension, leg curl machine.
And it doesn't look much different than how they are today.
That's the cool thing about it. I mean, and that's at Jack's home gym. It was surreal being there and being in the presence of, what truly is the godfather of fitness and working out on some of the original equipment.
So that was the original Smith machine right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
He called it the squat machine.
Right.
His friend Rudy Smith added some things to it, changed a couple things, and Rudy didn't patent it either. But it started being called the Smith machine because it started to scale in popularity through what Rudy did with it.
And simply your ability to even just select, so pulling pin-loaded equipment in general, the weight selector, a.k.a. pulling out a pin and plugging it into a different weight, that also came from Jack.
That's correct, yeah.
Man, oh man.
Yeah.
So he was a sickly kid. He goes and sees Paul Bragg. That was right?
Yep,
That was his
Paul
name?
Bragg.
And so then he starts to combine this with weight training, because that was just the nutrition side.
Right.
He still had to learn how to do the actual, the bodybuilding itself.
Right.
Right.
Well, bodybuilding and gymnastics and wrestling, a lot of people don't know his background in other sports.
Right.
He actually made the 1936 Olympic wrestling team, but that same year he had opened his gym and was a professional making money, and so they had to kick him off of the Olympic team because you couldn't make money. It's not like it is today.
Yeah.
Right.
So he lost that opportunity. We're actually trying to get him posthumously awarded that Olympic membership.
Sure.
We're working on things
bestowed
like
an
that.
Olympian.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Because he had the skill set to be there.
he did. I mean, he earned his spot on the team and then was taken off. He was also a world-class gymnast. In fact, one of those pictures that was just up there with those hand things that I was on, they would go down from Oakland, which is a long drive from Oakland down to Muscle Beach, down by L.A., every Friday night, and they would spend the weekend those hand things where they would do, handstands and pyramids and all kinds of body weight type gymnastic.
Bring his body up to a handstand and then down. Oh man,
just
wild.
incredible. Yeah, and
Body control.
Yeah, it was like I said, being able to work out on those pieces of equipment that the hand of fitness greatness, the godfather of fitness, actually used in his everyday routines.
What did he come from a family of business owners, or what kind of sparked that in him?
Immigrants from France, and they had a farm and basically lost everything, and it just kind of had to remake themselves. And so he didn't come from money. He came from the mindset once he learned how to live with good health and fitness through nutrition and exercise. He became quite the entrepreneur and just learned by doing. In the early days, the medical profession called him a quack, called him a charlatan, said that, this weight training was not good for you. It was going to cause you heart attacks, lose your ability to have sex. I mean, it was just the medical community didn't understand how important
weight resistance
exercise, just training in general was. And so they called him a quack and a charlatan. But what he liked to say...
For our listeners and for myself,
yes.
What is a charlatan?
A quack.
Okay.
somebody who like parades around like they might know something that other people don't, but they're just full of it, basically.
Yeah.
Snake oil guy.
Exactly, snake oil, yeah. And in fact, that was a term they used as well. And what he liked to say as he got older was, they used to call me a quack and a charlatan, but now they call me the authority.
That's funny.
And
you know what's really funny about that is that the number one thing that will dictate beyond anything else for health span and lifespan is basically how good of VO2 max you have. How good in shape are you?
Yeah.
It's more important than any drug you could take. It's more important than anything, any other marker.
Yeah.
And it's funny that back then, the medical establishment was basically saying, you're crazy. And he was like, well, we'll see.
Well, yeah, and I mean, he knew because he actually was born again through nutrition, proper nutrition, and exercise.
Yeah.
So he used himself as an experiment, basically,
he was the
to
sickly
do this.
child.
He was the sickly child and saw how it did create a new existence for him. And, it just goes to show that the medical community, it's an art, not just a strict science. It's still evolving. And
a lot of times I think the medical community can, for as much advancement that's happened, it also can leave people having a superiority complex where it almost shuts them off to being able to think outside of the box that they came up in.
Yeah.
Which is why when somebody comes along that's like this, it's basically breaking all the molds and is pushing the boundaries and is doing all these things.
It's very disruptive.
It also, there's also a feeling of like, oh no, people want to feel needed. Like as a doctor, you want to feel needed. But if somebody's saying, hey, you can take your own health in your own hands, it can make people feel like, no, you should be listening to us, And it could be coming from a good place. But I just think it's interesting that dichotomy is still, it happens today all the time in the same industries, in the same fitness and nutrition industries. You still have people that will push back against it, just as he got it, back in the day.
Well, they've made it too easy in the medical community from the standpoint standpoint of like medicines and things, you know, because they'll give you a pill to wake up in the morning. They'll give you a pill to help you sleep at night. They'll give you a pill to help you lose weight. It's like all of this can be done naturally.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know,
no doubt.
But again, the medical community, a lot, the pharmaceuticals, he was not good for the pharmaceutical industry, right? Because you can do it naturally through proper exercise, nutrition, supplementation, and Jack was all about all of that.
Well, it's also cool, I think, and this is in the modern day and age with social media, there's a lot of really, really, really cool people on social media that are doing these incredible physical feats, right? And it's not just people that are famous for it, daredevils, this and that. We have a good friend, Kyle and I, Will Grumke, who decided he was going to run 100 miles one day and went out and ran 100 miles. It was incredible that he did it. There's people that we know, like our guy that works for us, Bob and Khalil did it, right? Mm-hmm. Did Trenton do it too?
Trenton did it. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we had three of our guys, three of our team members who decided to do a 13.1 mile run.
Yeah.
Then they did 100 push-ups.
They did Murph. You know what Murph is.
Sure.
They did Murph, except for it was
instead of a mile
marathon.
it was a marathon Murph. Yeah. So they did a marathon and then 13.1 did Murph, then did another 13.1. Mm-hmm. And so it's cool to see that people are doing these things just because of pure sake of I want to see what my body can do. And I think Jack LaLanne was the first paver of that.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about those feats because he's done so many of them. And I remember, when I've done my own research on Jack, of him, I think pulling a tugboat, which is a bunch of boats.
Yeah.
It was the tugboat was pulling other boats.
Yeah.
And he was just holding something in his teeth that was pulling all of these boats. Yep. And he was just swimming all the way across the English Channel.
Yeah, he did several of those types of events. They started when he was 40 years of age, and he wanted to
celebrate his health.
Show that
at these ages that he can do these amazing things.
Yeah, because back then, he was born in 1914. When you're 40 years old, you were old, right? So he started to do those feats of strength and endurance at age 40 to show that you are not indeed old, and your body is capable of doing amazing feats. And so he started to do those on milestone birthdays, did them from age 40 till 70 was the last one he did. He wanted to do it again at 80, but his wife said, if you do, I'll divorce you. And so she put an end to that. But
tell us about the first one, though. What did he do at 40?
So 40, actually, if you open up into the timeline toward the back of the book, and we can go step by step through looking at the timeline, doing that 70th, the final one he did.
Here we go.
Is really the one that stands out to most people. Because again, at age 70, a lot of people think it's time to kind of retire and slow down. Yeah, some of the push-up, pull-up feats are pretty amazing as well. Several world records in pull-ups and push-ups and handstand push-ups. Did a lot of that on live TV. In fact, he met Elaine, a lot of people don't know this about Elaine. Her nickname is Lala, so Elaine LaLanne. Mm-hmm. But they met when Jack started his TV show in Oakland. It was local in 1951. So for 8 years, he did it locally. In 1959 is when it went nationally and was syndicated. But he met Elaine, who was also a pioneer in television production. She ran a television, a daily, I think it was a 3-hour talk show.
Sure.
And a publicist called her and said, we've got this guy that'll come on your show and do push-ups nonstop for the whole time. And she's thinking, this is kind of crazy, but yeah, let me see. So the first time she met Jack, she walked down the hallway with a donut in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. And, Jack told her, of course, right out of the gate that you wouldn't feed that to your dog, get rid of it, and said the only healthy thing about a donut is the hole in the middle.
That's funny.
And
we like donuts here, though, man. Slow your roll here, Craig.
He really impacted her life as well.
This is what I want to talk about is age 40.
Yes.
He decides he's going to, when he turns 40, he decides he's going to swim the length of the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge underwater with 140 pounds of equipment, including 2 air tanks. He barely makes it out there.
He did barely make it.
Before the air ran out.
Right.
And, as some other arbitrary ones, Kyle, you can read off ones that you see.
The next one sounds way worse. 41, Jack swam handcuffed through shark-infested waters between Alcarez Island and Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco.
Yes, and that, they built
no
that.
Thanks.
They built that prison there so that people, couldn't escape.
Get back, yeah.
And the first time they actually tried it, they didn't count the high tide, and they had to really do a little science and figure out when they were successful. They had to do it more than one time to figure it out. But then he did that one more than once.
Man, he at 45, he breaks the world record. Jack completes 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 chin-ups in an hour and 22 minutes. Kyle, what do you think you can do it in, dude? 1,000 and 1,000 in an hour and 22 minutes. I mean, dude, that is unbelievable.
I can't do 1,000. I mean, doing 1,000 chin-ups is.
Do you think you could do that do you think you could do 500, honestly, like even in 2 hours? To do both?
I have
500,
no clue.
500?
They called them chin-ups.
Yes.
They were pull-ups.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are easier, as you know.
Yeah, you can see him actually doing it right here in the photo. He's doing a pull-up.
They're actually pull-ups. They called them chin-ups back in the day. But he did that in an hour and 22 minutes.
1,000 of each.
Yeah.
The thing about that,
dude, that's
when
just
you're doing push-ups or chin-ups or
lactic
pull-ups,
acid buildup.
Once they're gone, they're gone. Then you're doing like singles.
Yeah.
Right.
And he would do that on Muscle Beach, on the weekends. And in fact, the first time he brought Arnold and some of the other bodybuilders to work out with him. He would literally bury them in the sand because they couldn't keep up with him. I mean, they would do dips and pull-ups and just all of these feats of strength, and no one could keep up with him, including Arnold.
Now, he was obviously on the cutting edge of a lot of things.
Yes.
Was he at all on the cutting edge of PEDs?
No, he was not. He was always a clean. In fact, he talked about that and how disappointed he was in the ones that did go down that road. But he was always done. He did everything he did through proper nutrition,
exercise, and
supplements,
nutrition.
and exercise.
Now,
It's kind of a weird time because the PEDs were legal back then.
Well,
so like until 1991, I believe, is when the Steroid Act happened. It's like it would be kind of strange.
It's almost like you're looking at it as an extension of supplements back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he knew that
they
they
were
were
bad for
synthetic.
you.
Yeah, exactly. And so he was always a clean athlete, and
he definitely looks like that. He's kind of got the build of like a really bigger than a gymnast, but like a high level CrossFit athlete.
It looks like Rich Froning,
from
in the body type,
with
the height and everything too. So he has. I mean, obviously he's known for so many things, but did he ever do bodybuilding?
He did bodybuilding. In fact, he won some bodybuilding competitions. I don't remember the years on those. But,
Sure.
I think we have the trophies in
Any
there.
of Olympia or anything like that, or Mr. Universe, I guess back then is what it was probably called.
Maybe Mr. America. Again, I don't remember that because my focus was not the bodybuilding part of it. It was really the fitness side of it and the feats of strength and endurance. But I did see when I was in his home gym the trophies for some bodybuilding competitions and things like that.
Man, at 62,
I'm reading that one too.
Jack pulled 76 people in 13 boats, the Queen Mary Mile, while handcuffed and feet shackled to celebrate the spirit of 76, the 200-year bicentennial of the United States.
And
let's do his last one. Sorry, go ahead.
65 and 70 are the two really impressive. When his 65th was in Japan.
Okay, 1979, this guy, guys, celebrating another successful feat after towing 65 boats with 6,500 pounds of Louisiana Pacific wood pulp at Lake Ashinoko in Japan. His daughter, Yvonne, pictured from front row. These are all the people in the photo, but he really did that. 65 boats with 6,500 pounds.
Handcuffed
and feet shackled?
And shackled. and then the to
65 years old.
Yeah, at 65, but then go to 70, and that's the one that most people
know him for
because at 70 years of age, going a mile and a half in the Long Beach Harbor, handcuffed and shackled with a strong current and cold water, pulling 70 boats with 70 people, again, handcuffed and shackled.
At a mile and a half distance.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I get winded, honest to God, like swimming 100 meters. And that's not even like, I think that's most people, you know? So for him to go a mile and a half with, I mean, like, it's just, I have no relativity on that as far as how that would feel. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
And it's not, and it's in current. You know, this isn't like getting in a pool.
Right.
I mean, there's strong currents pulling you, and it was very cold. So that's the feat probably that he's most well known for.
I had no idea he did this at 87. Are you kidding me? So the Jack LaLanne power juicer that I grew up watching, he did that at 80. He came out with that at 87.
At age 87, and they sold $1.5 billion worth of juicers. Yes, that's a billion dollars worth of juicers. And
this is in the 90s.
This is, yes, correct.
When billion in the 90s is like 10 billion today.
It's a lot of money.
Wow. I mean, dude,
I want to know.
Look at this juicer. Have you not seen this before? I mean, it's like legendary. It's up there with the Ronco rotisserie, if you know what I'm talking about. That thing, you could, so like what made it so unique, I remember watching it all the time, was just that you could fit whole fruit in it, right? You could drop, like you don't have to take the skin off or cut it up or whatever, just drop it in.
Put it all in
there.
Exactly.
Oh, that's Freddy's. Sorry. I was like, dude, you can put, peanut butter cups in there.
But like, yeah, and I love that he wore his one-piece custodian outfit that he wore everywhere.
Yeah.
He started doing that when they syndicated
50s.
the show. Closer to in the 50s into the 60s.
And that outfit was black and white to start. But yeah, look, she dropped in like 6 carats at once because why not?
And just put it all in there and juice it out.
And everybody would do the celery. I was like, it's funny because I was, this is, juicing goes out of style and comes back and like it'll never go out of style fully, but it was it's been a fad numerous times, right?
Yep.
And just recently, everybody doing celery, which is a natural diuretic. You can actually buy celery, capsules that'll make you pee your brains out. But just wild to see the amount of different reasons why this guy was famous, and he was able to get his hands on so many different things. Yeah. Can we talk about like some failures, some adversity, some stuff that maybe didn't work out at all? Was he ever just broke?
No, I don't think he was ever really broke, but what he was is he's a guy that not only started a business, but started an industry. And you think about all that comes along with that, including the medical community telling you what a quack you were.
Yeah, when you're a trailblazer, everybody calls you out in the beginning.
Everybody, is trying to look for your failures rather than your successes, but what he had was those blinders that didn't allow distraction and even failures. I mean, not every piece of equipment that he took to the metal shop worked out. I mean,
sure.
But the ones that did obviously are still in play today. The leg extension, the leg curl, the calf raise, the Smith machine, all those, the selector pulley. The ones that hit big and stayed and have continued to stay. Here we are, 100 years and almost 90 years since he opened his first gym.
Yeah.
And,
what were his vices? He had to have some vice.
He really didn't. I've even talked to Elaine about that. He did not eat sugar.
He had no, he didn't like cake or anything?
He did not. In fact, that's one thing that Elaine, when she turned, I think it was when she turned 80 and went to her 80th birthday party. And she said, Jack, I know you're not going to, but I'm going to eat a piece of cake. At her. So Elaine wasn't, and she's alive today at 97, going strong. I talk to her pretty much every week. And in fact, I'll be seeing her here in just a little over a month at a convention where we're doing a big book signing event with a lot of the celebrities from the book that will be there as well.
Do they stay in California? His estate?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. She lives in California.
Okay.
How long did Jack live?
He actually lived till 96. He died at 96.
Wow.
Yeah.
Essentially just old age, or?
He had some surgery and got pneumonia, and he had actually worked out. He still worked out 2 hours every morning, and had a swimming pool treadmill, the swimming, and then indoor and outdoor. And he worked out with weights, but worked out 2 hours every day, and worked out that day.
The day he had to go to surgery
that he died. But he got pneumonia and didn't want to go back to the doctor.
Yeah, man.
96, man.
It's a good life, though.
It's a good life.
Yeah,
good life.
It's a good life.
A good, healthy life.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. And he was extremely productive till he worked out 2 hours a day. I mean, that's wild.
That is the goal. Is like you want the end of your life to be like, if my last day on earth was I got to work out 2 hours and then I pass away. Like that's what you want.
Yeah.
Because he basically did he have any health issues?
Talk about leaving it on the field. You know what I mean?
Did he have any health issues leading up to that?
Yeah, he actually, in fact, he was turned down from the Army when he was a young man. He wanted to go into the U.S. Army, but was turned down because he had bad knees. Mm-hmm. He had knee surgery from a football injury in high school, and so
American football being played that early.
Yeah,
my God, dude, he was like 1925.
He was a very good football player too. Yeah. But so he had a real bad knee and couldn't pass the physicals. And so when he finally went in with a buddy of his, and one of the doctors at the U.S. Navy is a doctor that did his knee surgery. And when he was going through trying to get into the Navy, he started doing handstand push-ups instead of squats. And they just put him right in. So he actually served in the U.S. Navy.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
No wonder he stayed out in California.
He lived in Beverly Hills for a while, and then the Central Coast, where they ended up in their later years.
How amazing, man! This line right here for this exercise record, one of a kind, right here.
4 DVDs and videos.
Oh, he got DVDs too?
No, I'm saying
before DVDs.
But
my bad.
Records were before DVDs and
I didn't know there was an exercise one, but the wonderful new way, guys. This was cutting edge at the time, so it says the wonderful new way to acquire a lovelier, more exciting figure, done to the rhythm of delightful organ music. So, if you want to get a glamour stretcher, aka a resistance band. Imagine putting this on on a record and then just listening to this record and doing the exercise routine that they say with no visual of knowing if you're doing it right.
No, they have the visuals right there.
It came with the visual. Came with a pamphlet.
Old boy looks jacked right there too.
Yeah. I mean, he was jacked. He was. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, this is when he was in his 40s.
So what did Arnold Schwarzenegger have to say for the book as an example?
Yeah, well, I mean, Arnold was just enamored with Jack and looked up to him as his idol. Jack was the head of the California Physical Fitness Governor's Council, and Arnold was on the board, and I believe
eventually became the governor.
Yeah, the governor of California. Yeah, but so many of the bodybuilders, the original bodybuilders from that Joe Weider era, including Lou Ferrigno and Arnold and all those guys, looked up to Jack and learned from him on Muscle Beach in Ventura.
So did you meet Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno?
I interviewed on the phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, they, I mean, as far as, growing up watching Pumping Iron and seeing the dynamic of between, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno, it's like what originally sparked my interest in lifting weights.
Completely.
So it's really cool that those guys that sparked my interest were motivated and inspired by Jack.
By Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that, guys like me, I came along in the early 80s into the fitness industry and kind of rode the wave of the what was the jogging and then tennis and then handball and then turned into the aerobic, and then all of that kind of merged into the fitness boom that was the 80s. And so when I started in the industry and I opened Kansas City's original personal training center in May of 1986. So
what was it called?
It's right down the street here.
For our listeners, yeah.
It's called AYC Health and Fitness. AYC stands for At Your Convenience.
Gotcha.
That was my differentiator. I knew I needed something because, I was introducing Kansas City, once again, not to just a new business, but to a new industry.
New concept.
Because personal training as an industry didn't exist in the early 80s.
Right.
And so Jack LaLanne and a guy named Jake Steinfeld, and he had a program called Body by Jake. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but he was kind of one of the big Hollywood trainers. And I thought I could take that concept with Jack's philosophy and open up here in Kansas City. And so I did in May of 86, almost 50 years to the day that Jack opened his first gym in Oakland.
So you're coming up, though, on a 40-year anniversary for AYC.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We are in our 38th year now. Celebrated our 37th anniversary in May of 23.
Were you guys 24 hours right off the bat with
No.
it being at your convenience?
Well,
No.
okay, so I was a one-man show in those early days, and the differentiator between myself and then the clubs was that I would come to your home or meet you at your gym at your convenience.
I'm with you.
And then when my book completely filled and I started hiring trainers, one of my clients said to me, you're going to have to quit calling the business at your convenience and call it at Greg's convenience.
Yeah.
And so I kind of started thinking, it's like I probably could, just use the acronym. And so we became AYC Health and Fitness and have been that for over 30 years now. So,
yeah. Well, coming up on 40, right? In just
coming
a
up
few.
on 40.
As somebody who's been in the fitness industry for a long time, what's your overall thoughts about the trends that have been happening in as far as like obesity going up? I think that right now fitness could be as big as it's ever been due to social media. Yet it seems like as a country we continue to get more and more unhealthy. What are your thoughts on that? As somebody who's seen a lot of different phases as far as fitness goes.
Well, I think a lot of it the problems that we have is that we are an MTV society, in that they have to change the screen like every 3 seconds because we have a short attention span. And I think people want gratification, not delayed but immediate. And so when they go to Instagram or whatever the social media sites are and they see these Instagram models, fitness models, they look for quick fix, easy ways to get it, take the pills to lose weight, or take the steroids to get big fat. I mean, they're looking for shortcuts, I think. And that's, again, one reason that I was so drawn to Jack was his holistic approach. And I had a good friend who was a natural bodybuilder who used to say that people are living too short and dying too long. And what he meant by that was that because of the pharmaceutical industry, people can be kept alive for a very long time in a very poor state of health.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they're truly living too short and then dying way too long. Right. Because those medicines are keeping them alive, but in a poor state of health with very low quality of life.
Quality of life, very
health
low,
span is typically what that's referred to now. It's
exactly.
Like, basically, it's how long that you're alive in a healthy manner.
Exactly.
Some people's health
span you can actually
is,
perform life.
Some people's health span is literally less than 40 years now.
Truly.
Is pretty incredible.
When again, it's sad because if you think about, again, the holistic approach, if you can go through life without, people are going to fall and get injured and break things here and there. But if you can live a quality of life where you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond, and still be able to get up off the ground and stand up and play with your grandkids and great-grandkids, that's really what I focus on with my clientele. The clients that I work with, on average, have been with me for over 30 years. And it's because I tell them that, it's not a destination. You're never going to get there, wherever there is, because once you've achieved a goal in fitness, it's not over. You've got to continue to maintain where you are. And so, it's not a destination. You're never going to achieve final destination until you're gone.
You got to love the process.
And the process can be enjoyable if you are consistent with it. So, that's really the focus. What in my practice is to try to go down that holistic approach. As best we can. I know there are exceptions to this, but if we can go through our life without medicine, without things that you don't need, if we can do it holistically,
develop
naturally,
the healthy habits, versus something that's going to band-aid it versus My question to you is this though. For you, Greg, is what's your favorite way to exercise now? May I ask how old you are for our audience?
Yeah, I'm 62, and
you're in great shape.
Well, I have never felt better. But I've never felt unwell. So I've been my whole life, whether it be in sports, or I opened my business right out of graduate school. So it's all I've ever known. And I'm just so passionate about sharing Jack's legacy, I'm just now a vessel to pass on what I learned from him. And that's what he would tell his mentees. It's like, whatever you have learned from me, all I want is for you to pass it on.
You do that?
Yeah, that's called the little cliff.
Oh, you got some good grip strength.
Well, and I would tell you, if you start to research, two very high correlations of longevity are grip strength and balance. Mm-hmm. And so I've started taking up this ninja warrior training about 3 years ago, kind of late in life, but
it just goes to show that there's never the wrong time to start.
No, there isn't. And again, because
you're saying at 59 years old, you started doing a ninja warrior.
Correct.
Gym.
And again, because
how awesome, man.
It's you see things that help longevity, and then you find sports and activities that just make it part of your everyday existence.
And make it fun, right?
And make it fun.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a big part of, if you don't enjoy something, that was a little challenging because you're grabbing onto a cliff about this wide with your fingertips.
It's just an inch.
And it drops too. I don't know if you noticed how the thing, it drops on you, so you're not catching it straight. You're catching it, and then it's going down on you.
Wow. Yeah, I think people underestimate how much falls will, as we age, falls become more and more dangerous. And grip strength, obviously being able to grab onto something and hold yourself up or balance, makes a huge difference in stopping that from happening.
Absolutely.
What's that stat, Kyle, that we read? I want to say it's like if you're over 70 years old and you fall, it
basically is like you have. I can't remember the percentage, but you have basically a 3-year period where your likelihood of dying is like doubled during that 3-year period. And a lot of it is just being in a hospital, going through the recovery, people not being in a good health state when they fall.
Yeah.
So now the thing that would help them feel better, they're not physically able to even start.
Which is why, when you see like our president fell not too long ago, is he 80?
Yeah,
80 years old. It's like, I look at that and I'm like, that is so dangerous. And people do not understand like that at that age, when you fall like that and you're obviously not in very good health, it's dangerous,
Well, and a lot of women, especially with osteoporosis, what will happen is the break will come before the fall.
Yeah.
So it's like they say they fell and broke their hip.
Well,
the truth is what happened is as they're walking, their hip broke and then they fell because of brittle bones.
Sure.
So the more weight-bearing exercise we can do through our lives, and that's not just for your hips, I'm talking your shoulders too.
Of course.
And so that's why I was so drawn to that type of training, is you're getting bone density throughout your entire body, not just your hips. But the bone density issue is very relevant, especially with women.
Yeah.
That you don't want to break and then fall. You don't want to fall and break, but you don't want to break first either.
Yeah.
So through the evolution of how things have gone now with fitness, and you've been paying attention now for 40 plus years. What is something that you used to do, for example, that you let's say in quotes like would swear by? Maybe it even been an ambassador for this level, this way of thinking that has changed or evolved since then that you no longer practice.
Well, what's interesting is when I started AYC, the industry said that you should never combine your weight training and your cardiovascular training together. And instinctively, it didn't make sense to me because I came from a wrestling and judo background.
Sure.
And all of that was resistance and cardio put together when you think about hand-to-hand combat and resisting and taxing that cardio system. So I always thought it made sense to bring those two worlds together. But they said do them separately. So, I'd go down that road and do it, and it just never felt right to me. So, very early on in AYC, and Jack would talk about this too. He would always talk about do very short rest breaks between cycles. And then you're going to get the best of both worlds because you're going to get strength and resistance training, and you're going to get that cardiopulmonary response as well. And so I got out of that, separating them very early and practice metabolic resistance training, HIIT training. But we've been doing that before it was even called metabolic resistance training and HIIT training.
You were just combining them from the beginning.
Just combining them, but again,
I think a lot of people when they get into fitness, they aren't clear on like what their end goals are with it or what they're trying to get out of it, and so I guess if your end goal was I want to be as muscular as humanly possible, then you would say, okay, yeah, you probably don't want to do cardio with it. But if you're, and as we age, and this is kind of the point where I'm at in my life now too, where I'm just more interested in being healthy and increasing lifespan. If I'm thinking about training in that way, then I would obviously want to mix the both of those together.
And that's where I was going with that, is from the longevity stand. Now, there is something called the principle of specificity, right? And that's, okay, if I want to get really good at push-ups, what should I do?
Push-ups.
Do more push-ups. If you want to be a good swimmer, what kind of training should I do? Do more swimming. So that's the principle of specificity.
Yeah.
If you want to get better at one thing, if you want to become a great power lifter, then that's not the kind of training. Yeah. But again, my practice was started early on as a practice of longevity. It was not about bodybuilding. And I've got nothing, some of my best friends in the industry are big time bodybuilders. I've got nothing against that.
Sure.
But that doesn't lend itself to true longevity in and of itself. So I try to bring all the things that are conducive to the practice of longevity into my practice. I'm not knocking any of the others.
No, sure.
But like you said earlier, what is the ultimate goal? What's the purpose of the training? What's the purpose of your business? What's the purpose of your life? As long as you know that, then that GPS out there, it doesn't mean you don't get off course a little bit here and there.
Sure.
But that GPS gets you back on track.
Yeah.
And so
you got to have that focus.
You've got to have purpose.
Right.
And then the focus comes.
I'm with you.
But again, because my practice is about longevity, healthy longevity, not longevity for the sake of longevity with medicine, but true well-being.
Right.
That's why
being able to live a high level of quality of life.
Which I feel, one of the things on social media that could negatively be impacting people's ability to stick with fitness in general is that, a lot of people's end result or what they're after is something that is external, right? They're looking for something that's superficial. They're like, I want to look this way, and they're looking at maybe a pro bodybuilder.
Right.
They don't understand what's happening on the backside of things to get to that point and how unhealthy a lot of those things are. And when they work out for extended period amount of time and they don't get to that point, they feel disillusioned by fitness in general.
It's unfortunate, man. It gives them basically a false expectation.
Well, my industry, I like to when I mentor younger trainers, we are unfortunately an industry of manipulation, and a lot of it's through social media and through magazine covers and posters of the six-pack abs and all those sexy models and things, and that's not true health and fitness. That's just good-looking models. Vanity, and it's somewhat superficial. But true health doesn't mean you have to have six-pack abs. Now, what's cool is that when you get in good health, a lot of times that comes as a byproduct of it. But let's not make, again, the focus of my practice, and I talk to my people straight on, is like, let's not make that the focus. Let's not make that the goal.
I've gotten six-pack abs where I felt like I wasn't very healthy, and then I've gotten six-pack abs where I felt like I was pretty healthy. And I'll tell you that you can, there's lots of different ways to skin a cat, and you definitely, like I said, I think a lot of that has to do with age in the industry, and it seems like, now, like you were saying, there's a lot more people that are out there that are trying to manipulate in the industry versus, at the time when Jack was coming around, it was like pure. I guess at that time it was coming from a standpoint of like, I see a problem. I see a deficiency in American health at that time. Yep. Can you imagine this? Think about this. Jack LaLanne's getting on an airplane and he's talking about, health and fitness. He gets on this airplane, the whole airplane's cigarette smoke.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning into the podcast. Kyle and I really appreciate your support. We've been doing this for a really long time. And we want to let you know that we do this completely free. We don't run ads. We're not asking for anything from you guys except for one thing, and that is to pay it forward. Please tell a friend. Please give it a share. Please give it a like if you found any value in our podcast. We do this 100% to support local fitness. And so if you in turn appreciate and support local fitness, we hope that you do share the podcast with somebody who could get value in it. Now, let's get you back to the episode.
Truly.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
And that's totally okay.
Yeah, and it's totally normal. And people are probably like, what, you work out? And they're probably like smoking cigarettes while they work out. Like, it's just totally different time. Yeah. Totally different time. So it's very interesting to think about the, differences between now and then.
Yeah. Well, and that's another why, it's so impactful what he did, is because he had to go through all of that nonsense.
Yeah.
Even through the medical community, where, at least now the medical community is on board and preaches it too. But that's why what he did was even more impressive, because of what he had to battle to get on the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and looking at some of those feats that he did in the 60s, which is really interesting because, the 60s, you're going through the hippie revolution, the cultural revolution that happened, the sexual revolution, and he's over there like, you guys need to be lifting weights and eating your veggies.
Yeah, he's just, talk about a pioneer.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a time where people were okay with these things. You know what I mean? As far as him saying what he's saying. Mm-hmm. And it took till 1984 is when he had that 70th birthday feat.
Yep.
So many things crazy happened in 1984.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the odds?
Let's talk about, or can we talk about the possible movie coming?
Yeah. That was something very exciting as we were going through the process of writing the book. And it took us 3 years to write the book. And that whole time, in the background, there was a possibility of a movie being made. And people were asking how in the world we got Mark Wahlberg on the cover of the book, with a quote that he put on there, because he was too young to have known Jack. But we were able to release about a month and a half ago that Mark Wahlberg's production company, Unrealistic Ideas, is doing the story of Jack LaLanne's life. There's going to be a biography and then a feature film. It's the Hollywood Reporter. Yeah, that's another press release, but the Hollywood Reporter is where it was first released, and then other places have picked it up. So we're very excited because looks like filming will begin sometime around April of 2024. And
do you know where they spot a location for it yet?
There's a couple of possibilities for it. Nevada's one of them, and so that's kind of where it looks like it will be filmed.
Sure.
I really hope Mark Wahlberg is the star of it. He seems like the perfect dude for it, and he wow, they look so much alike too.
Like I said, there's very similar body types, very similar height. It makes a lot of sense.
Mark Wahlberg
both
also
were underwear models.
He has the most intense schedule. Have you ever seen his schedule?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's like legendary.
Yeah,
it's and for those of you guys who don't know, Mark Wahlberg's been a fitness guy since day one. The show Entourage is based on his life loosely.
Yeah,
he also was the one who produced that entire show. So it's basically a loose autobiography of his own life when he first got to Hollywood as Marky Mark.
There's some great footage of Elaine working out with Jack. I'm sorry, with Mark. Elaine and Mark Wahlberg working out together.
Elaine LaLanne.
LaLanne. She has been a joy to work with through this process. She's 97. She's 97. And was just recently on the Rachel Ray TV talk show.
Sure.
And it's funny, when she did it, it was to promote our book. It was basically a 7-minute commercial of our book.
Sure.
And, of course, it pushed us back up to number one in about half a dozen categories on Amazon. And but her energy and her enthusiasm and just her pure joy of life is what really draws people to her, because, at 97, she looks young, she acts young, and she encourages those around her to be young. Here we go. There's Mark and Elaine working out together.
Wow. Yeah. She's at an F45.
At an F45.
I'm sure Mark Wahlberg owns 50 of those.
He does. He owns probably at least that many. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just fun watching her work out. And when I was at her house in Jack's gym, she was talking about some of the equipment. She hopped up on one of the Roman chair sit-ups and just started at 97 doing Roman chair sit-ups. And it's just like, how many 97-year-olds on planet Earth can support their body weight first of all, but then start doing Roman chair sit-ups. It was pretty impressive.
Very few.
There. That was it. That was my camera. That I said, you got to do that again for me, Elaine. And so she hopped right back up and.
I mean, what in the F?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
But again, she learned from the best and was fortunate to spend 56 years, I believe they were together.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Man.
But
for those who are interested in Mark Wahlberg's schedule, 2:30 a.m. wake up, 2:45 prayer time, 3:15 a.m. breakfast, 3:45 workout, 5:30 a.m. post-workout meal. And basically you get the idea until he goes to bed at 7:30 every night.
Yep.
Just insane.
Well,
I would imagine Jack's schedule probably was something similar to that.
Very much so. And those are the things that I'm very much on board with. The going to bed early, getting up early, kind of starting your day on the right track. And both Mark and Jack were men of faith. And there is a definite connection between those two. And so I think it's only right that Mark's production company
I hope so.
behind this movie.
I hope so, man.
I really hope that they make the movie, and I hope they make it right, and it gets plenty of a budget to do it the right way. Because I'm excited to watch it.
I think the right people are involved with it. And, as we started this project of Pride and Discipline, the Legacy of Jack LaLanne, Elaine said to me, she grabbed my hand and looked me in the eye and said, Greg, all I want is that Jack get the recognition for what he did for this industry.
Right.
And it sent chills up my spine, and I knew that I, with her, was on a mission. And the mission was to promote Jack's mission. And that mission was to help people help themselves through diet and exercise. And so that's what we're promoting, and that's what we're sharing with the world through this book, and just furthering Jack's mission.
Man, Greg, Kyle and I are honored to have you on here, man. We're honored to learn about Jack LaLanne, and I can't express this enough. I'm so pumped to see this movie and to read and dive into this book.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into the book too.
I hope both of you enjoy it, and let me tell you, it was my sincere pleasure to be here with you guys, and I appreciate you guys inviting me on the show.
Of course.
I hope we can do a little bit to carry on the legacy of Jack LaLanne with our listeners here. And if you guys haven't already, make sure you read or Google Pride and Discipline to pick up a copy for yourselves. One last question we ask every one of our listeners, and I know you eat super duper healthy. You have less body fat percentage than me at 62 years old. How old are you now? 62,
62.
Right? So what is it when you're going to have a cheat and you're going to have some Kansas City barbecue? Where would you send?
Okay, I got to give you two because I'm a big Jack Stack and I'm a big Q39.
Oh,
so
nice.
Hey, I mean,
those are our two faves.
You've been around in Kansas City a long
outside
time.
Of slaps.
Q39 is a new kid on the block.
They are, but they're pretty good.
What's your favorite thing there?
Probably the beef. What am I trying to say? I like the chicken at Jack Stack, and not the little cubes, but just the
not the burn ends. But you're talking about the brisket.
Brisket. Thank you. My mind completely went break.
Brisket.
Yeah. Like the little sliced brisket, and I eat brisket, but I don't have the discipline from a nutritional standpoint that Jack did, because I'll have some chocolate ice cream every now and then too.
That's your sweet too.
Brisket's not that bad. I mean, I'm sure the fat content's relatively high, but I mean, there could be worse.
If Jack only knew how easy it is to get convenience, just delicious crap. When it comes to crappy food nowadays, there's a lot more temptations, but anyways, I'm sure he'd be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, even when he would go out, and we talk about it in the book, that he would pre-order. He would have called in and tell them what he wanted before he would even go to order it. So
smart.
Yeah, he was as disciplined as any man I've ever met. Yeah,
love it, man. Wow. Thanks again so much for your time.
Thank you again for coming on.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you being here.